Namaste, Dhanavat Pranam. By the grace of my spiritual master, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Puri Maharaj, I'm reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 9, Text 37. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Svanigamam apayamat pratigyam ratam madhi kartum ava pluto ratastaha dhrutarata charano vyayach chaladagur harir eva hantum ibam gato taraya. Fulfilling my vow and sacrificing his own promise, he got down from the chariot, took up its wheel, and ran towards me hurriedly, just as a lion goes to kill an elephant. He even dropped his outer garment on the way. Purport. The Battle of Kṛṣṇa was fought on military principles, but at the same time in a sporting spirit, like friends fight with one another. Duryodhana criticized Bhīṣmadeva, alleging that he was reluctant to kill Arjuna because of paternal affection. A Kshatriya cannot tolerate insults on the principle of fighting. Bhīṣmadeva therefore promised that the next day he would kill all 5 Pandavas with special weapons made for the purpose. Duryodhana was satisfied, and he kept the arrows with him to be delivered the next day during the fight. By tricks, Arjuna took the arrow from Duryodhana, and Bhīṣmadeva could understand that this was the trick of the Lord Kṛṣṇa. So he took a vow that the next day Kṛṣṇa would have to take up weapons himself, otherwise his friend Arjuna would die. In the next day's fighting, Bhīṣmadeva fought so violently that both Arjuna and Kṛṣṇa were in trouble. Arjuna was almost defeated. The situation was so tense that he was about to be killed by Bhīṣmadeva the very next moment. At that time, Lord Kṛṣṇa wanted to please his devotee Bhīṣma by keeping Bhīṣma's promise, which was more important than his own. Seemingly, he broke his own promise. He promised before the beginning of the Battle of Kṛṣṇa that he would remain without weapons and would not use his strength for either of the parties. But to protect Arjuna, he got down from the chariot, took up the wheel of the chariot, and hurriedly rushed at Bhīṣmadeva in an angry mood, as a lion goes to kill an elephant. He dropped his covering cloth on the way, and out of great anger he did not know that he had dropped it. Bhīṣmadeva at once gave up his weapons and stood to be killed by Kṛṣṇa, his beloved Lord. The fighting of the day was thus ended at the very moment, and Arjuna was saved. Of course, there was no possibility of Arjuna's death because the Lord himself was on the chariot. But because Bhīṣmadeva wanted to see Lord Kṛṣṇa take up some weapon to save his friend, the Lord created this situation, making Arjuna's death appear imminent. He stood before Bhīṣmadeva to show him that his promise was fulfilled and that he had taken up the wheel. Text 38. Sita vishika hato vishirna dhamsa Kshataja paripluta atatyino me prasabham abhisara madvadharatam sabhavatu me bhagavan gatir mukhanada. May he, Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa, the personality of Godhead, who awards salvation, be my ultimate destination. On the battlefield he charged me as if angry because of the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows. His shield was scattered, and his body was smeared with blood due to the wounds. Purport. The dealings of Lord Kṛṣṇa and Bhīṣmadeva on the battlefield of Kṛṣṇa are interesting because the activities of Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa appeared to be partial to Arjuna and at enmity with Bhīṣmadeva. But factually all this was especially meant to show special favor to Bhīṣmadeva, a great devotee of the Lord. The astounding feature of such dealings is that a devotee can please the Lord by playing the part of an enemy. The Lord, being absolute, can accept service from his pure devotee, even in the garb of an enemy. The Supreme Lord cannot have an enemy, nor can a so-called enemy harm him because he is Ajita, or unconquerable. But still, he takes pleasure when his pure devotee beats him like an enemy or rebukes him from a superior position, although no one can be superior to the Lord. These are some of the transcendental reciprocity dealings of the devotee with the Lord. And those who have no information of pure devotional service cannot penetrate into the mystery of such dealings. Bhīṣmadeva played the part of a valiant warrior, and he purposely pierced the body of the Lord so that to the common eyes it appeared that the Lord was wounded, but factually all this was to bewilder the non-devotees. The all-spiritual body cannot be wounded, and a devotee cannot become the enemy of the Lord. Had it been so, Bhīṣmadeva would not have desired to have the very same Lord as the ultimate destination of his life. Had Bhīṣmadeva been an enemy of the Lord Kṛṣṇa could have annihilated him without even moving. There was no need to come before Bhīṣmadeva with blood and wounds, but he did so because the warrior devotee wanted to see the transcendental beauty of the Lord decorated with wounds created by a pure devotee. This is the way of exchanging transcendental rasa, or relations between the Lord and the servitor. By such dealings, both the Lord and the devotee become glorified in their respective positions. The Lord was so angry that Arjuna checked him when he was moving towards Bhīṣmadeva, but in spite of Arjuna's checking, he proceeded towards Bhīṣmadeva as a lover goes to a lover, without caring for hindrances. Apparently his determination was to kill Bhīṣmadeva, but factually it was to please him as a great devotee of the Lord. The Lord is undoubtedly the deliverer of all conditioned souls. The impersonalists desire salvation from him, and he always awards them according to their aspiration. But here Bhīṣmadeva aspires to see the Lord in his personal feature. All pure devotees aspire for this. Text 39. Vijaya Rata Kutumba Attatotre Dhrutahaya Rasmini Tach Triyekshaniye Bhagavati Ratirastu Me Mumursor Yamiha Nirikshahata Gata Svarupam. At the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Kṛṣṇa, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjuna, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, who was very careful to give protection to Arjuna's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death. Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord constantly sees the presence of the Lord within himself because of being transcendentally related by loving service. Such a pure devotee cannot forget the Lord for a moment. This is called trance. The mystic yogi tries to concentrate upon the supersoul by controlling the senses from all other engagements, and thus he ultimately attains samadhi. A devotee more easily attains samadhi, or trance, by constantly remembering the Lord's personal feature along with his holy name, fame, pastimes, etc. Therefore, the concentration of the mystic yogi and that of the devotee are not on the same level. The concentration of the mystic is mechanical, whereas that of a pure devotee is natural in pure love and spontaneous affection. Bhīṣmadeva was a pure devotee, and as a military marshal, he constantly remembered the battlefield feature of the Lord as Partha Sarathi, the chariot driver of Arjuna. Therefore, the Lord's pastime as Partha Sarathi is also eternal. The pastimes of the Lord, beginning from his birth at the prison house of Kamsa up to the Mausala Lila at the end, all move one after another in all the universes, just as the clock hand moves from one point to another. And in such pastimes, his associates like the Pandavas and Bhīṣma are constant eternal companions. So Bhīṣmadeva never forgot the beautiful feature of the Lord as Partha Sarathi, which even Arjuna could not see. Arjuna was behind the beautiful Partha Sarathi, while Bhīṣmadeva was just in front of the Lord. As far as the military feature of the Lord is concerned, Bhīṣmadeva observed this with more relish than Arjuna. All the soldiers and persons on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original spiritual form, like the Lord, after their death, because by the causeless mercy of the Lord, they were able to see him face to face on that occasion. The conditioned souls rotating in the evolutionary cycle from the aquatics up to the form of Brahma are all in the form of Maya, or the form obtained by one's own actions and awarded by material nature. The material forms of the conditioned souls are all foreign dresses, and when the conditioned soul becomes liberated from the clutches of material energy, he attains his original form. The impersonalist wants to attain the impersonal Brahman effulgence of the Lord, but that is not at all congenial to the living sparks, parts and parcels of the Lord. Therefore the impersonalists again fall down and get material forms, which are all false to the spirit soul. A spiritual form like the Lord's, either two-handed or four-handed, is attained by the devotees of the Lord, either in the Vaikunthas or in Goloka planet, according to the original nature of the soul. This form, which is cent% spiritual, is the Svarup of the living being, and all the living beings who participated on the battlefield of Kurukshetra on both sides attained their Svarup, as confirmed by Bhīṣmadeva. So Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa was not merciful only to the Pandavas. He was also merciful to the other parties, because all of them attained the same result. Bhīṣmadeva wanted the same facility also, and that was his prayer to the Lord, although his position as an associate of the Lord is assured in all circumstances. The conclusion is that whoever dies looking at the personality of Godhead, within or without, attains Svarup, which is the highest perfection of life. Text 40. Lalita gati vilasa bhalgusha pranaya nirichana kalpiturmana kritamanu kritavatya unmadhanadaha prakritim agankila yasyagopa vadva. Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Radhadam, the gopis. The damsels imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord after his disappearance from the rasa dance. Purport. By intense ecstasy and loving service, the damsels of Rajabhumi attained qualitative oneness with the Lord by dancing with him on an equal level, embracing him in nuptial love, smiling at him in joke, and looking at him with a loving attitude. The relation of the Lord with Arjuna is undoubtedly praiseworthy for devotees like Bhīṣmadeva, but the relation of the gopis with the Lord is still more praiseworthy because of their still more purified loving service. By the grace of the Lord, Arjuna was fortunate enough to have the fraternal service of the Lord as chariot driver, but the Lord did not award Arjuna with equal strength. The gopis, however, practically became one with the Lord by attainment of equal footing with the Lord. Bhīṣma's aspiration to remember the gopis is a prayer to have their mercy also at the last stage of his life. The Lord is satisfied more when his pure devotees are glorified, and therefore Bhīṣmadeva has not only glorified the acts of Arjuna, his immediate object of attraction, but has also remembered the gopis, who were endowed with unrivaled opportunities for rendering loving service to the Lord. The gopis' equality with the Lord should never be misunderstood to be like the Sayuja liberation or of the impersonalist. The equality is one of perfect ecstasy, where the differential conception is completely eradicated, for the interests of the lover and the beloved become identical. Text 41. Munigana nripa varya shankulenta sadhasi yudhishthira rajasuyaisham arhanam upapeda ikshaniyo mamadrishi gochara ishavir atma. At the Rajasuya Yagya, sacrifice, performed by Maharaj Yudhishthira, there was the greatest assembly of all the elite men of the world, the royal and the learned orders, and in that great assembly Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa was worshipped by one and all as the most exalted personality of Godhead. This happened during my presence, and I remembered the incident in order to keep my mind upon the Lord. Purport. After gaining victory in the battle of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhishthira, the emperor of the world, performed the Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. The emperor in those days, upon his ascendance to the throne, would send a challenge horse all over the world to declare his supremacy, and any ruling prince or king was at liberty to accept the challenge and express his tacit willingness either to obey or disobey the supremacy of the particular emperor. One who accepted the challenge had to fight with the emperor and establish his own supremacy by victory. The defeated king would also have to sacrifice his life, making a place for another king or ruler. So Maharaj Yudhisthira also dispatched such challenging horses all over the world, and every ruling prince and king all over the world accepted Maharaj Yudhisthira's leadership as the emperor of the world. After this, all rulers of the world, under the regime of Maharaj Yudhisthira, were invited to participate in the great sacrificial ceremony of Rajasuya. Such performances required hundreds of millions of dollars, and it was not an easy job for a petty king. Such a sacrificial ceremony, being too expensive and also difficult to perform under present circumstances, is now impossible in this age of Kali. Nor can anyone secure the required expert priesthood to take charge of the ceremony. So, after being invited, all the kings and great learned sages of the world assembled in the capital of Maharaj Yudhisthira. The learned society, including great philosophers, religionists, physicians, scientists, and all great sages, was invited. That is to say, the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas were the topmost leading men in society, and they were all invited to participate in the assembly. The Vaishyas and Sudras were unimportant elements in society, and they are not mentioned herein. Due to the change of social activities in the modern age, the importance of men has also changed in terms of occupational positions. So in that great assembly, Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa was the cynosure of neighboring eyes. Everyone wanted to see Lord Kṛṣṇa, and everyone wanted to pay his humble respects to the Lord. Bhīṣmadeva remembered all this, and was glad that his worshipful Lord, the personality of Godhead, was present before him in his actual formal presence. So to meditate upon the Supreme Lord is to meditate on the activities, form, pastimes, name, and fame of the Lord. That is easier than what is imagined as meditation on the impersonal feature of the Supreme. In the Bhagavad Gita 12.5, it is clearly stated that to meditate upon the impersonal feature of the Supreme is very difficult. It is practically no meditation, or simply a waste of time, because very seldom is the desired result obtained. The devotees, however, meditate upon the Lord's factual form and pastimes, and therefore the Lord is easily approachable by the devotees. This is also stated in Bhagavad Gita 12.9. The Lord is non-different from his transcendental activities. It is indicated also in this shloka that Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa, while actually present before human society, especially in connection with the Battle of Kurukshetra, was accepted as the greatest personality of the time, although he might not have been recognized as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The propaganda that a very great man is worshipped as God after his death is misleading, because a man after his death cannot be made into God. Nor can the personality of Godhead be a human being, even when he is personally present. Both ideas are misconceptions. The idea of anthropomorphism cannot be applicable in the case of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 42 on Friday. All glories to Om Vishnupad, Shripad Bhakti-Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shiradev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad, Jagad Guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Arupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees Ki Jai. All glories to the worldwide devotees Ki Jai. Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Nishangapali Dham Ki Jai, Ekachakra Dham Ki Jai, glories to Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai, all glories to Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Pramanandi Hari Hari Bol.